Hey, great morning, everybody. Dr. Tom Miller here. Just halfway through my morning ride, and I'm listening to one of my mentors talk about retaining talent, right? Retaining talent, and I know everybody out there is certainly struggling with concerned about retaining their top talent, but also making sure that you've got the individuals that you need just to be able to run school on a daily basis. I'm working with the school, and they said, we've never had to really advertise for jobs before. This is new to us, right? We're 10 days into the school year. We still got 4 or 5 openings. So maybe you're in the same situation. So my mentor, she was talking about, this article, and I'll put the link here. It's about, Gone for Good. It's a survey by the McKinsey Group. It's, they've, surveyed hundreds of thousands of employees over the last, 2 years about their work. And there's a top 10 of why they leave. I'll talk about 1 or 2 right now, but I'll make sure that I keep hitting on this over the next, week. But the first one was uncaring leaders. Uncaring leaders. That's the number one reason why, people are leaving their job. And, something I've just learned in my, 20 years is that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And in our world of, fast pace, closing student achievement gaps, demanding parents. Right? We're very numbers oriented at times. And if you've taken our DISC leadership profile, right, you're either people oriented or task oriented. And so, sometimes when we think about all the tasks that need to be done, we forget about the people part of it, the toll that it's taking on those who serve the school, right? Those who serve the community. That's actually number 2 is unrealistic expectations. And just, think about education since March of 2020. We have asked teachers to take their brick and mortar classroom, take it virtual, right? And, figure it out. And then we said, okay, now we need to come back because the parents need the kids back in the building, right? So, put your health to the side, put a mask on, right? And, 99% of us were like, we'll do it. We will figure it out, because that's what educators do. But, going back to the uncaring leaders, right? It's about ensuring that you are taking the time to get to know the people who are serving the organization on a daily basis, getting to know them for who they are, right? And, one of my great mentors, Bud Dingwall, he said, Tom, you need to meet with everybody on your team once a quarter. Just sit down, have an impromptu lunch. Don't talk about work, talk about them, right? Going through the family, the occupation in sense of like, where have you worked in the past? Where do you feel most successful? Where do you see yourself in a couple of years? Recreation, what do you do for fun on the weekends, right? How do you stimulate your heart? How do you really feel good about your world? What do you do outside of the 60 hours that we put into the workplace? And mission, what gets you up every day, right? So that form those, 4, really important questions. So then you're starting to find common ground, and you're starting to see where they see themselves, down the road, so you can maybe help them get there, right? But you're also asking them questions about, hey, what are you working on right now? How are you, right? How are you? What are you working on? How can I help, right? The more that you ask, and don't expect an answer right away, because the people who serve you are not going to tell you how they're struggling. You got to build that trust, and you got to create a safe place for that, right? That's about building a high performance culture based where vision is valued, right? And people are valued. So another great exercise after you've got your lunches, right? Values, right? What are the values of your organization? What do they look like? What do they feel like? What are definitions of your core values? How do they appear in every classroom? And taking the time to talk to people about how they're demonstrating the core values, how you see how they're putting in the effort and the time based upon, the training, whatever it may be. So, first, get to know your people. 2, get really clear about who we are, why we exist, what people need to do on a daily basis, and how we'll behave, right? Those values pieces, because, culture is just the worst behavior that's tolerated in the organization. It's the sum of all the behaviors of the people. So if you're building a high performance culture based upon vision, where we're going, and values, how we behave, then it's easy to have those difficult conversations when someone's just not adhering to those two pieces. But last but not least, you got to release people from their weaknesses. You got to make sure that expectations are clear, you've clarified them, you've communicated them, and that people are working within their strength zone. Now, again, going back to our DISC leadership profile, there's lots of schools that have had the whole school do the DISC. And one of the pages, page 17, it talks about your strengths in leadership, and it shows the top 2 or 3 strengths. And what I say to the leaders is, look, make sure people aren't working outside of their strength zone. Keep them in their strength zone, but always out of their comfort zone. And if you identify a team that's got too many, strengths in the same area, maybe you need to break up that team a little so you build a team that completes each other. Because if you have the same expectations on one team about, details and communication and getting things out to their parents, but they're very I-oriented, they're kind of all over the place and very impromptu. And then you have another group that's very detail-oriented and they hit every deadline, right? If you're comparing them against each other, you're not really comparing apples to apples, because you're comparing 2 different teams with 2 different strengths, but you're holding to the same expectations. So build a team that completes, release people from their weaknesses, right? Make sure you've clarified expectations. And we've got some really great exercises and some frameworks that I'll talk about maybe later this week about how to make sure that if someone's not adhering to the expectations, how do you have that conversation with them? So those are your 2 steps, right? I'm going to drop the link to this article so you can take a look at it, read through with your team. But number 1, get to know your people, right? Ask them those 3 important employee retention questions. How are you? What are you working on? How can I help? Really get to know who they are now and who they want to be 3 to 5 years from now, so you can help them get there and you paint them in the picture of the success of your school. And number 2, take away those unrealistic expectations, right? They don't need to be worrying about all those other parts. Just get really clear about, hey, let's just get really good at these 1 or 2 things right now. Let's do this for the first 30 to 45 days of the school year. Then we'll start worrying about these other pieces, all right? Great. I believe that every student deserves to learn in a high-performing school. You're a high-performing leader because you took the time to listen to this. Now it's about closing that gap with your organization, right? So I'm Dr. Tom Miller, raising your awareness. Have an amazing day, everybody. Bye-bye.